Hello, hello. It's Laura Cardona, the Buena Vida life coach, coming at you in the very special live on Tuesday. We're having a chat, a live chat. There's things happening on the IG. We're going to give it a minute. Hello, hello, people who are joining. Thank you for joining us. We're waiting. Let me introduce myself again. You already know who I am. There we go. Hello. She's joined, and so now how do I do this? Add as a moderator. No? Oh, yeah. Okay, here we go. Getting through it, y'all. Getting through it. Here we go. Accept. There we go. Oh, I gotta move the things. So wait, we have to do a thing so my head is not like this.
Let me
again.
back up too.
Look at you. You look amazing. Yay.
It's the earrings.
Girl,
Get some
that's
earrings.
all that it is.
Get some earrings, and you look like you're going to the mall.
Every time I leave the house, if I leave without earrings, I'm like, no.
Yeah.
I go back and get earrings because
Right.
I will look a hot mess without earrings.
Right, me too.
Amazing, amazing. How are you? So good to
Good,
see you.
friend. How are
I'm
you? You look so pretty.
great. Thank you, thank you. It's warm out, but let me get these things out. It's warm out, but we keep the house cold, so I have to wear a sweater. So it's really funny, but yeah.
I know.
Let me
I'm
do a
the
little
same
of
way.
this.
It's hot out, but it's still kind of cold in here. So I'm wearing.
Oh, frozen. It's unable to join. We have some pauses here. We have some. Oh no. Hello, Terra Media Design. So, you have paused in a very precarious position. IG is trying you. Hold on, let's see. Is it on my end? I'm not sure. I don't believe so. Um, invite. I'm gonna re-invite you, Janice. There
Am I
we
up
go.
now? Okay.
There we go.
I
There we
know.
go.
Technology is so weird, right?
It's just be messing with us all the time.
Right.
It's just be messing with us all the time.
Hi,
And
everybody.
yet we just have to keep going, right?
Right.
Hello, Kimberly. Hello. Oh, look how these fun people coming in.
I
So
know.
excited.
That's so
I'm
nice.
trying to get the window so I can see your face because all these things are covering. All right, we're figuring it out. Yay, we're here talking about boundaries. Woo! Exciting. So do you want to introduce yourself, Miss Madame Coach Janis?
Of course. I am Janis Hillard, and I'm a boundaries coach, and I help BIPOC women have. Oh, no, let me start over again. I help BIPOC women help be effective communicators through boundaries because I believe we need boundaries. All of us do. Mm-hmm.
All of us.
All of us
All of us.
do.
Which is why I said, let's do a live and talk about boundaries because it's so important. I love your work. A little brief background is we met on IG
Right.
and we still haven't met in person. We
Right.
met on IG
Right.
and somehow it was just like, friend. We
No,
just became friends.
it's true.
It's true. We did a live where we were talking about what we do and how we coach intentionally in our communities. I coach intentionally with Latinas, and you coach intentionally in the Black community.
Yeah.
And is it Black women specifically, or do you do?
For all the diaspora. All the
Love it,
diaspora.
love it, love
Yeah.
it. I have yet to coach men, even though I have coached, but not as clients. Like
Right.
where they're like, hey, can you help out? But not as clients. It's been all Latinas for me. But we talked about that, and that was a beautiful conversation.
Yeah.
And then I thought, let's keep it going. Let's talk about what you do because I love it. It's so important. It's so
Yeah.
important. So let's kick it off.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about a little bit about what got you into boundary coaching specifically?
Sure. Of course. I just want to make sure my earrings aren't dangling so you hear it, like it's not clanking. I just want to make sure. Let me know and then I'll take one of them out. Yeah, thank you. No, so I became a boundaries coach because of boundaries and because of my situation with family, with friends, and all the work I did, I really was like, hey, I'm really good at knowing what boundaries are. And that I'm not about shutting people out. I wasn't about that. I wasn't about like putting up this fence of people, put up this fence for people to not come in. And that's where I kind of like saw that people were putting up boundaries because they didn't know what it was. So my work started because of me. Of course, I always say I'm my first case study. Of course, we are.
Yep.
And I saw that because I knew how to do it, I knew how to extract these boundaries or put up these boundaries. I knew myself, and that was a work in progress. I learned myself. I learned my emotions. I learned how to navigate through them, and I realized I was a better person for it. So the reason why I got into this is because of all that, and because I saw that people didn't know, especially my community. And when I say BIPOC, I mean Black people, Latinas, and Native American, those people, those types of people, because I believe that Caucasians have access. They've always had access. And I love my Caucasian brothers and sisters. But that's not who I talk to, because I believe that talking to us, talking to culture, talking to ethnicities is important to get them to understand what it really means. So, knowing the definition of what it really means. So I saw that disconnect. I saw that disconnect. And I love my community and I love other communities. Um, so yeah, that's how I got into that. That's how I got into this work, and I wanted to be able to explain it correctly to
Mm,
people.
mm. Doing the work for the culture. I love it. No, I mean, it's amazing, right? You said there's something missing. I got to get in there. And so I thank you and honor you and applaud you and celebrate you for stepping into that work because it's so important. And if I can just briefly say how I see you is such a warm, cozy way of being able to talk about boundaries, because boundaries can be a big word, right? And it's
Right.
like, oh, you said it, fences, right? And it's like, no, I love what you said, where you have to extract. You have to extract, because you could think, I had, I come from the film background, and I had a director once tell me, don't talk to me when I'm being creative. He thought that was a boundary. Okay, guy, what are you talking about? My G, what are you talking about right now? Like, that makes no sense whatsoever. Aren't we all being creative all the time? Like, he just didn't know,
Yes.
right? So that is just an example of like what we think. That's the don't speak to me in it. So if you can speak a little bit about how you talk about boundaries, or more so how you define boundaries.
Sure. Boundaries, like I tell people, first and foremost, boundaries are about um, unacceptable behavior that you don't want, but also what you don't want for yourself. And people think that boundaries are about other people first and foremost. Like I said, like putting up defense and just not letting people in. And I'm gonna do me because me is perfect or me is right. And no, that's not it. What you have to learn is that self-awareness, which is a huge word, but it's really like in layman's terms, it's just about knowing yourself. It's about knowing what triggers you, knowing what you won't stand up for, knowing yourself, so you're able to show up however you want to show up, but it's authentic you. And I know that also is a word that's being floated around a lot, but people don't understand that being authentic, you, is just I'm Janice. I'm able to be on this live and talk to you, and I don't have. I mean, besides the bangle earrings, but there's no pretense, there's no like trying to be somebody else. This is who I am. So what I try to talk to clients about first and foremost is um, knowing yourself, being self-aware, knowing your emotions, knowing who you are, and that's huge. Believe it or not, well, but believe it or not, that's a lot of work. And people don't think that, like I said, people think boundaries are about other people only and that they are okay. So, what I try to explain to people is that boundaries are before you can even start having boundaries, before you can start saying, hey, I won't accept this, unacceptable behavior, I won't take anymore, you have to know that that's the behavior you don't like, you don't want. You know, you have to know that. So how are you going to know that if you don't know, like, yeah, I don't like when people, I'm allergic to smoke. I'm not, but I'm just saying, like, I'm allergic to smoke. Why am I having people smoking around me? Because I think that's okay, or because I want friends. Well, what is that? So I try to make it as simple as possible because that's how I learned it. And because going back to our culture, is because it's said very easily outside in the world that we kind of are like, what is that? Like, boundaries are so big. Like, that's a word for other people. That's not for us. So I try to do it as simple as possible because that's how I learned. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's too big. They make it too big. People make it too big, and it really isn't. You know, that's a long way to your question.
No, it's a beautiful way to the question. And uh, I love what you're saying. And I keep circling back to the fences because I realize I just recently heard something about that, you end up building the fences too high. And then, so there's also a boundary building practice that you have to practice. Like there's you build it up and it starts with awareness. I think you said that, getting to know yourself. For me, the way that I define it is permissible ways. Like, and that's just sort of the way that I learned it. And then I'm like, look, this is a reasonable way for me to interact with you and for you to interact with me.
Right. Right.
That
That's what it is.
changes all the time. We're allowed to change it. We're allowed to be who we want to be in different spaces. Right? There's
Right.
spaces where I'm going to go in. I'm like, no, you can't talk to me at all. But put me in my high school friends. We are cracking at each other. We're ranking on each other left and right. But put me in another space. I'm like, do not even say anything about me or the way that I look. Or, there's different. We're allowed to say that. So to me, it's about permissible ways in different situations. So can you talk a little bit more about the fences that we build up and sort of the maneuvering around them, right? Because it is big. And so more so really what I want to say is when people don't know what boundaries are, they don't even know how to talk about them. They've heard it and they're like, fences or walls, right? Because that's another thing. Boundaries are walls. And it's like, possibly, but so anyway, you could talk a little bit about that.
Sure. I think when they talk about walls, when they talk about it's going back to what I said. It's like, well, I'm okay. I'm doing what I'm doing is perfectly fine. I can show up as myself, whatever how it is, hurting people or talking about people. So I'm that way all the time with my friends, with my family, with the people I hang out at Starbucks with, or see or don't see. I'm that same way. So you have to accept me. There's a lot of posturing. There's a lot of, all that going on, especially online. But just anyway, it's just when you see people, they're not themselves, and I can see that. I can see that they're not in their, in their body. They're that way all the time. You have to accept it regardless. I always say on the side, I always hate when people say it, and I'm probably aging myself when I hear people say like, "This is my world," and you're living in it. I know people don't say that so much; they say it a different way.
I still say it.
Right. But I think that's like what people go in front of, or not front of. They let that go in front of them, in front of the authentic self, because they don't, because it's scary to be yourself. If you think about it, if you put it in this big terms, but it really isn't, of course. Um, but yeah, I think people don't. They use boundaries. The word boundaries has been used that it's so big and it's so formidable, it's so big, and you're so scared of it, but it really isn't. It isn't like that. It just boundaries take that all out. Like take out the word boundaries as far as what you think you've heard about it or that word attached to it. Take that out. Showing up for yourself, being with your friends, and allowing to like rag on each other and not be taking it so literally or be so sensitive. You know where you're at. You know where you're at. I know when I'm with my siblings that's just gonna be that's how it is. And I love it. But I also know like how am I gonna be with my friends? How am I gonna be? I know that. So when we take out that word, and what it means in the grand scheme of things, what we've been told, it makes it like more manageable. It makes it more real. And it makes it more like, oh, okay, I don't have to have these walls. I don't have to show up and be somebody else because I'm too afraid to think about what I want or think about like I am with my family. I am with strangers. I am with, these people. No, I can pivot. I can do whatever. I mean, pivot is probably too strong, but I can be who I am when I'm with that person. It's being conscious of what you want and what you don't want. You know what I mean?
100%. No, I love it because that's how I learned about boundaries
Hmm.
for myself personally. And I'll say it was, I'll say it in the way that I also learned how to talk about boundaries, but it's what caused me distress, what was causing me, right? Like that. Oh, yeah, okay. Last week, when we were hanging out with and we'll keep with the analogy of my friends, right? We were ranking on each other, but this week I'm a little sensitive, so I need you to stop, right? And I need you
Right.
today. I need you to not rank on me so hard. I'm feeling a certain type of way, and I need you to tone it down a
That
little bit.
part.
And that feeling of like what happened for me was that it made me feel smaller and smaller, and
Mm,
I shrank because either I thought to myself, oh, I had to. No, but I let them do that last week, so I have to. Who am I to tell them now that they can't? No.
mm,
It actually costs me more not telling them
right.
because then it makes me feel smaller. It makes me, I
Right.
can even feel it right now thinking about it. Like it's a
Mm-hmm.
very tense feeling in the body.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, it does start with knowing what you want, knowing about yourself and paying attention, awareness, which is a big word for a lot of people, but it's paying attention, y'all. That's what it is, right? That's it. It's
That's
paying
it.
attention to yourself and honoring, like, yeah, I it's okay for me to not want that. What worked for me last week doesn't work for me this week. And maybe maybe it's not a week, it's a month, a year. In sixth grade, man, whoa, the things that I mean, your mama jokes were lit. I mean, your mama jokes were it back in the day.
Right.
So it's like now,
Yes.
don't even talk about my mother. Don't
Right.
use my mother's name. Don't speak on her because
No.
it's over,
Yes.
right? So it's a different way of knowing that, and how can I sit in the same where I myself has changed. So
Right.
my boundaries, my sphere, the way that I live, what's acceptable for me, what's permissible for me, the way that I want people to treat me because I treat people differently is
Right.
now very different.
Right.
So
And that's
how
when the fences come in. I'm
no, no,
sorry. But
no, please.
that's when the fences come in. You're able to say, hey, I'm not like what you just said earlier about the analogy about your friends. Like, hey, this week I'm not feeling it right. I'm not feeling it. You can't. I'm. That's a fence. That's a healthy fence because you're still letting your friends be your friends as far as letting them in the gate. I always say like, but you're saying, hey, in order to come in here, let's not do it this week. Not building up the wall, saying, hey, of the wall. Not building up the wall, saying, no, I don't want to tolerate you, period. You're my friend, but no, I don't. And that's what a wall is versus a healthy fence. A fence that you can allow people to come in and you can allow people to come out.
Ooh, I'm into it. There's a wall and there's a healthy fence, y'all. Did you hear that? That's right there. That's boundary coach Janis dropping some gems in this. I love it. I love it. Mind you, I want to tell anyone who's here, if you have questions, please feel free. If we have time, we'll answer
Yeah, of
them.
course.
Can we talk about how to get people? Let's say you have a client or a friend or someone coming at you saying, I don't think I have any boundaries and I have no idea where to begin. I don't even know what they are. I don't know where to begin. Like, it's a big question, but, in some respect, how can we, sort of synthesize the answer to our IG audience here on like, how do you begin talking and setting boundaries and learning about boundaries?
Well, I think it's about about awareness, but that's why I have levels because I believe in levels. Just like I learned boundaries, just like you in levels, and we didn't know we were learning levels, but we were. But that's how I learned it. I wanted to know the definition. I think too many people are walking around, which I know. That's why I do what I do. Too many people are walking around not even knowing of the simplified version of boundaries. So that's why I created like Boundaries 101 to let them know exactly what it is, because I know a lot of people do come to me like, well, okay, so I saw it. Yeah, I get some of what you're saying, but I still don't understand what it is. And I try to tell them like what I just like what we said to each other is like, I think the word boundaries is so huge to people that they focus on that. And if they're not getting that, what they see, because I can tell them, I can have a simplified version of them all the time, talking to them. But if they go back and hear it on TV, or they go back and hear it on something, something else that is explained in a way that's confusing, they go back to thinking, well, that's the way that boundaries is. But she kind of told me, whatever, how I simplified it. um, I think it's just knowing the definition for what it is. If you don't feel, let me just, I'll just say this. If you don't feel like, or not you feel, but if you're in a position, if you're in a, friendships or whatever, family's huge. If you're in yeah, if you're in a situation where your cousin always asks you for money,
Mm.
you told them that, hey, I can't keep giving you money. I can't let's just have a cousin relationship. Let's not ask for money all the time. And you go back to what I said about how you show up as yourself.
Mm.
You show up and you know all the definition, what I've taught you, what you've heard on live or whatever, or what you heard, and then you go back and you hear the fact that boundaries is this big mystical thing. Well, that trips you up. But when you know yourself, you're like, hey, I don't feel good. I still don't feel good about giving this cousin money. That's your definition right there. That's your personal definition. It's like you don't like this behavior. You told them you don't like that. They've heard you, but they still want to ask you. Your compass is not just me because you heard it. You not the compass that you heard on television. Your compass is you. That's why I always say is that the first step to knowing boundaries is knowing yourself. Is to be aware of yourself. And a lot of people don't know that. I had to be taught that. I had to be taught that Janice is important. What does Janice like? What do you understand? What do you like? What do you know? And know that and get it
Yeah.
and not think she's stupid, not think she's, lazy or whatever that is. No, Janice is okay. She understands. And the behavior that she doesn't want, she doesn't have to have. She just doesn't have to have. So I don't have to give money to my cousin because I don't want to. And I told them, and I told them so. I don't have to keep repeating myself. No, I told you I'm not giving you any money, and that's my compass. So I don't know if that explains.
That does. That's what I'm hearing again over and over, which I love, is you have to pay attention to yourself. You have to pay attention to your meters. We can say it in different ways, right? Your walls, your fences. There's a lot of ways to talk about it. Your boundaries, sort of your orbit, your
Yeah,
sphere.
yeah,
You can think about it however, but the more you get in touch with that, and that is a lot of the work that I do with my clients, is
yeah.
what's your world? What's your connection to it? What's your its connection to you? What's your connection to the people around you? Because that I have no idea what happened, y'all. I have no idea. I just got cut off by the gram. That is bizarre. Technology, y'all. It happens. We're at the whim. Bizarre. Bizarre. Ain't that something? We just got Coach Janice is coming back on. Is accept? Sorry. Okay. Accept it. Accept.
I know. I mean, Archie, what are you doing to us? What are you trying to say? You don't want us to have boundaries?
You don't.
You don't want us to tell?
That's right. They're against boundaries. Now we lost all the people that were. We are very sorry, y'all. Hi, Jess.
So
We're very
sorry.
sorry. We are
Yes.
very sorry. Oh,
Sorry
goodness.
about that.
Sorry. I don't even know what I was saying because I just sat here like, really?
Right.
Really, G? Like, really? You're just going to kick us out in the middle of a live? Like, I can't. That's rude is what that is. But all right.
Yeah.
Rude. Well, hopefully people come back. If not, they can watch the replay. Unbelievable. But we're talking, yes. We keep it
I
moving.
know. Keep it moving.
I forgot what we were talking about, but it's essentially just learning about yourself. That's more of like learning about yourself and the boundaries. So you get into the practice because that's about practice, right? That's what I'm hearing. It's about practice. Oh no, now it's unable to join. And now she's gone and we're still y'all. What is happening? You just have to laugh. There's nothing that we can do.
I know what it's trying to do. You're a liar. Devil, you're a liar.
Whoa. It didn't do it last time.
I
I'm on the same internet,
just
same person.
tried.
Rude. IG rude.
We're still
Rude.
gonna keep going.
And we're going to keep going. You can keep stopping us. We're going to keep going. I'm committed to this conversation. All
Right,
right.
me too.
Sorry, y'all. Sorry, y'all.
I know.
So we're going through the practice of they're building up. They're learning their world. They're becoming aware, right, of the person. They're building up the boundaries. They're talking about the boundaries. They're learning how to talk about the boundaries. They're experimenting, talking about boundaries. And then, as life be life and people be peopling, what happens? You get to the point where you're like, oh, I have the boundary. I had that built up, and now it's like, right?
Yeah.
What are a couple things, 1 to 2 things that you can sort of say that you can offer someone like when that happens to that
That's
to address that?
not without. Because I do work with people who get to that step and they're like, hey, but that's why we practice like role playing. I have scripts. And that's what I encourage people to do too. Like, once you get help, once you work with somebody who can help you, like whether it's a life coach, whether it's a boundary coach, um, get a script that you're comfortable with. Not just a script, not something you by rote you just say to somebody all the time. But something you can say to yourself, you can look at, not say to yourself, that's the second part. You can look at and say, okay, remind you that it's okay to have these boundaries. It's okay to have this what is it? What word am I looking for? It's okay to that's okay. It's if you know what it is, but it's okay to keep looking at it and telling yourself that this is the boundary that I've created. This is the boundary that that I'm telling myself because I don't believe in repeating to the person because once they hear it, they hear it.
Say that
Yeah,
again, please.
we don't we don't repeat. That's not how it works. We don't repeat ourselves. To tell somebody over and over again, I'm not going to give you money. Like I said, going back to that analogy, I'm not telling because on a side note, the cousin has heard you. That's why we keep asking. They've heard you. I always tell people because I'm not the greatest verbal communicator, contrary to what I'm doing now. And I love doing lives. I love talking to people. But contrary to that, I'm not the greatest verbal. That's not my first thing. It's like talk to people. But when I say something, if when I say it when I'm because I mean it. So I mean, especially if I'm trying to convey a boundary, if I'm trying to convey something to somebody, I mean to my siblings and to you, my friend. I don't have to say it so much, but I can repeat myself. But when I'm telling to somebody, when I'm trying to convey a boundary, that's it. And you've heard me because either you come back and ask me for it, you've heard me, so I don't have to repeat. Oh, sorry. I don't have to repeat it.
Really trying
But
us. I
I
just
know
really trying us today.
it really is. I know, but they've heard me. They always will hear you. if you say it correctly. So I think a script, but I also think affirmations are really good to look at to remind you that you're on the right path. I will, boundaries help keep me safe. Boundaries help to um, know who I am, help me show up who I am, how I am authentically. I think that's really important, and we need that. We need that because I'm not always there. You're not always there. I won't be there forever. So it's great to remind yourself because, like you said in the beginning, life be life, and just like IG, people will try you. People will try you. It's almost like people know when you're trying to work on yourself, when you're working on yourself, when you're trying to show up as yourself, you're doing the work. People will always try to come in because they don't like that. Because I always tell people, other people benefit from you not having boundaries. People benefit. I know tons of people who benefited from me not having boundaries back in the day. And as I look back, I'm like, oh, I was really taken advantage of. So when you have that reminder, when I'm not there, when your life coach is not there, it's really important to be able to see like you're on the right track, confirm you're on the right track. And I think affirmations and a script that you can get from your life coach is really important just to say to yourself so you're able to still have your back straight when you go out into the world. Because life be life.
And people be peopling. Yes, they do. I said that this morning. I'm like, I don't know if I made it up, but I love it. People be peopling. It's true. It's amazing. No, I think that's beautiful. To recap, get yourself a script, and however way you get the support, write yourself a script, because I think that to me, what that says is I can think of even myself times that are scary to speak up. Right? It's someone that not terrifies is a big word, but they intimidate you somehow, right? So it's scary to like, oh, I'm gonna speak up. If you have that script, even if your lip is trembling, even if you're like, this has changed for me, like even if it's that, if you have the script memorized, it's gonna help. So I think that's beautiful. I love it. And affirmations, just like I'm okay. This is okay for me to feel this. This is okay for me to not want to give cousin money because cousin needs a job. You know what I mean? That's come asking me for money.
Cousin needs to go somewhere else.
And I love what you said. Yeah, it's amazing. And I love what you said about, because I remember hearing this and it really, really resonated, which is the people who are telling you that your boundaries are stupid or like nonsense are the people who benefited off you not having boundaries. So that tells you a lot. And that could be, that spoke to a part of me that feels sad because, even you saying I felt taken advantage of, to me that I know what that feels like, very much so, because I didn't have boundaries. I didn't have an awareness of what was going on at work, being exploited like a mofo. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a lot. So it's like, I can think back with some grief, but I can forgive myself because I'm like, I didn't know. And I didn't know what I didn't know.
Yes.
Right?
That's
I didn't know what I didn't know.
Yeah. Give yourself grace because you didn't know.
Yeah.
You didn't know.
Yeah.
And I had to look back at that as well and do the same.
Yeah.
So I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
It's important.
It's important. It's beautiful work. I think it's important because for me, they're like non-negotiables in a way, and even as non-negotiables, they're still negotiable in a way. But it's just a matter of like, this is how I'm operating, y'all, and you can't like, no.
No.
Just teach the no, like no to, even I'll go back to the analogy of some friends, my high school friends. Like there will be times where the next day, if we're hanging out, they'll say something. I'm like, not cool anymore. I'm done laughing, and then they'll keep going, and then it's like you got beef. Like we got beef because it's like but I said you heard me, and then this is another thing. I'll even say when I feel myself sort of getting a little activated, I'm like, did you hear me say that this isn't working for me? I need to hear you say that you heard me or that you didn't. So I'll repeat myself one more time. One more time. And then we'll know where this conversation is going. Because it's that like I need to be clear that either you heard me or maybe you thought I